Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, the honors to our apostles and our elders of Great Millstone for teaching us His truth, true and well. I'm probably going to cut this to a two-part. There's a couple things that I wanted to get into and talk about. All right. This other day at camp, I had somebody roll up and he asked, if I was with, uh, I believe it was IUIC that they mentioned. All right. And it was a heathen looking person, all right, a so-called white man. He looked like, you can't um, really say that he's an Edomite, all right, but he rolled up and he asked me if he was the devil, all right, if he was the devil according to scripture. And my response was, um, I don't know, I don't know. I have to judge according to the spirit is what I told him. And that kind of troubled him, so he moved on to the next topic. you know And his next topic was, why do I carry around that chart? All right, that 12 tribe chart, which if he gets offended by that chart, then, he probably might not be a Israelite, you know. But he's obviously offended by the chart, or if he's not offended, and he's really worried about the scriptures, then again, he could possibly be an Israelite, you know. But the one that he brought out was First Timothy chapter 4, you know. And I couldn't really hear what his argument was or what he was trying to say or anything, you know, because he was in his car. He literally just rolled up in his car, rolled down his windows, and he started reading off of his phone. So I couldn't really hear and understand what he was saying. But I did hear about genealogies, when he mentioned First Timothy chapter 1 and verse 4, Salaki. I heard about the genealogies that he was talking about, saying that the 12 tribe chart is that, which it isn't. you know there's fine lines. We always say this. There's fine lines in the scriptures. There's fine lines in this truth. There's fine line in the doctrine of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, which is the true doctrine. So in First Timothy chapter 1 verse 4 says, neither give heed to fables and endless genealogies. All right, so those fables would be like old wives' tales, you know, like La Llorona, and things of that nature. All right, those are really unnecessary. You know, in all reality, they can have some edification. Like for instance, La Llorona again. Um, she was crying, "My children, my children." All right, and it was a woman that was supposedly seen. Well, the original story of La Llorona actually goes back to the Mexican or the Aztec king, which had a vision of a woman screaming, "My children, my children." All right. And he didn't take heed to it. But then later on, he realized that it was her children representing the children of Israel, which is the so called Mexicans. All right. Not just only the Mexicans. All right. But the Issacharites are one of the 12 tribes. And that was actually like a prophetic dream, a vision of the children being taken over and killed off by Edomites. All right, that's really the La Llorona thing, but that was towards edification. But people worrying too much about fables, worrying about these things, that's not for edification. All right, that doesn't increase your faith. You see what I'm saying? So that's a fine line. The thing with endless genealogies, all right, would be worried about, and trust me, I know this from personal experience, all right, worrying too much about if you're an Israelite or not. All right, having an endless genealogy about, okay, well, my dad has colored eyes, and then his father has colored eyes, and then his father doesn't have colored eyes, but his father does have colored eyes. All right, and his father's father's father had blonde hair, and this, and that. Man, you're spending too much time on that genealogy, and it's happened to me before, where I was spending so much time that instead of edification, it was bringing unto me grieving and mourning and just self hate. You know, It wasn't bringing any edification to the body of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. It wasn't bringing to me any increase in knowledge, wisdom, understanding. It wasn't bringing anything to me, man. And that is a fine line. All right. When you understand this truth, all right, when you accept this truth, and when you fight for this truth, that's what is a perfect indicator to us that you are an Israelite. All right. So since I came into this truth, you know, doing what I have to do, that was an indicator to myself, all right, that I am an Israelite. I don't have to worry about where did my parents come from, where did my dad's dads come from, where did my dad's dads come from. I don't have to worry about all that stuff, man, because if you accept this truth, ultimately you're an Israelite. You see? So that endless genealogies thing is not talking about the 12 tribe chart, you know? It's not talking about that, man. That endless, because the 12 tribe chart is prophecy. That is a prophecy, man. All right? That is something that we're supposed to have when we go out. And yes, Elder Tahar still goes out with his chart. Elder Gabar still goes out with that chart. All the elders still do it, man. You have a bunch of scoffers and mockers that say, the elders don't even do it anymore. Yes, they do. Here at Great Millstone, yes, they do. All right? Everybody does it. There might be one day where we don't get it for whatever reason. All right? But the majority of the time, I'd say about 99% of the time, we have that chart out there. Or 99.9, I should say. That point one, sometimes we may forget it. Or sometimes something may happen. It might break, or it might, whatever. All right? But that 12 tribe chart is prophecy. It's part of the scriptures. And just because you don't understand the scriptures, because it doesn't physically slap you in the face, doesn't mean, all right, that it's not true. You see? So neither give heed to fables, all right, which is other doctrines. Those are fables. All right? Buddhism or any of these other religions, those are fables. Endless genealogies, all right? Don't worry yourself too much about where you came from. Am I a son of an Elamite, or am I a son of an Ammonite? All right? Just imagine the people that live in Asia, all right, that believe in this truth. They shouldn't give heed to endless genealogies about, well, why do I believe in this truth? Am I an Israelite for real? Let me go down my father's lineage and go through old pictures. That's not for edification. You see? That endless genealogy thing is not talking about genealogies in general, because as we know, scriptures talk about genealogies. But the endless genealogies, as it says, which minister questions rather than godly edifying, which is in faith, so do. You see? So there's fine lines in this truth, man. So I wanted to open up with that one. That way I can continue on, through a couple of other ones. Like I said, this might be a part two, depending on how I approach this and how the Spirit has me handle it. Um, but let me go to Romans 2 and verse. Let me start off at verse 28. For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh. All right. Now let's go into that word Jew. All right, because that also brings up questions. Judíos, Judíos, which is Judites. Really, that's what it stands for. Judíos means Judites. All right, sons of Judah. All right, but now as Yahweh Shai, as it's prophesied in Genesis 49, Yahweh Shai would be the head that comes out of Judah. All right, so now we follow after Judah. Judah is the head tribe out of the 12. All right. Judah is the head tribe out of the 12. So it's no longer Judah as in Judah, Benjamin, Levi, all right, but all tribes fall under Judah, all right. So it says belonging to the Jewish nation, which is not Jewish, all right. Ish meaning kind of, sort of, pertaining to, all right. It says Jewish as respect to birth, origin, and religion, all right, which again, that doesn't mean that. So we go, let me see, where is it? See if they have it here in the Hebrew. Sometimes they have it at the very bottom. No. Let me see, from Judah. Here it is. So the Hebrew root word, all right, which it would go, or not the root word, but the Hebrew word that it goes back to is Judah, which means praise Yahweh, not just praised, all right? Because in the Hebrew, Yahweh, Yahweh is the name of the Most High, and Yada meaning think. So thank the Most High, all right? Or give thanks to the Most High, praises to the Most High. You see? So that's what it really goes back to. So he is not a Jew, all right? So you don't go back to through the lineage of an Israelite, which is one outwardly, all right? Because you have to understand the history of how Judah, Benjamin, Levi, which are called Jews, kept the law, statutes, and commandments, while, all right, you had the northern kingdom of Israel that did not keep them, so they were sent out into Assyria, all right? So that's why it says, which is one outwardly, because the Jews, all right, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, would keep the traditions, would keep the law, statutes, and commandments, while the northern kingdom did not, and then they went into captivity to Assyria. After Assyria, they left to the Americas, as 2nd Ezra 13 and 40 states, all right? So a Jew outwardly, all right, would be to keep the law, statutes, and commandments in the outward physical appearance. You see, neither is that circumcision, all right, which is part of our laws, which is outward in the flesh. But he is a Jew, all right, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly. That's why there's no difference between a Greek and a Jew, all right, because, like, again, if you know the history, all right, the Jews, Israel, was turned into a Greek nation by way of Antiochus Epiphanes. All right, when he ordered people to keep the the religion of the Greeks, the customs of the Greeks. All right, and if you didn't keep the customs of the Greeks and you try to keep the customs of the Israelites, you would put to death. All right, you were put to death. That's why certain women, all right, they would hide their children and they would circumcise them in the 8th day. And guess what? They went up and they killed their children. You know, you had men that would keep the Sabbath day secretly, all right, and they would go and they would kill those men for keeping the Sabbath day, all right. So that profane person was an Edomite that had did this. You see, and he forced them to call themselves Greek. You know, so that's why there's no difference between a Greek and a Jew, which that word there is Helen, all right, which is a person that was converted into Greek customs and religions. You see, but he is a Jew, which is one outwardly, Salakia. But he is a Jew, which is one outwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of the Most High. You see, so he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, all right, but he's a Jew, which is one inwardly. All right, and the circumcision is of the heart. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean you have to open up your mind, or open up your head and physically open it and physically cut off a piece of the brain? No. All right. Now things are transferred into a more spiritual sense. You see? So that's why we have that chart. That chart is like an attention grabber. You know, you have, whenever you write an essay, the first thing you have to write is a hook. All right, something that's going to captivate somebody's attention, something that's going to, grab that attention and really drag them into it. You know, so if you have a story about horses, all right, something that might interest the public, a quick fact might be something like, did you know one horse is not, or did you know one horse adds up to 14.5 horsepower? You know, something like that, that might get somebody to say, wait a minute, one horse really doesn't mean 1 horsepower. So they might look into it and start reading your thesis, your statement, and then your conclusion. You know, so the same thing. That's what the 12 tribe chart represents, man. It's something, to edification. How the ancient Aztecs, how the ancient, Puerto Ricans, how they were all Israelites, the Taino and the Hopi, the people here in the native in America, all right, in the United States, how they were actually Israelites. They found artifacts proving that they were Israelites, all right, and it's even to further edification because it proves that it's not just by skin color. You see, because you have some Native Americans now that are Native Americans on their father's side, and on their mother's side they're not. All right, but on the but they look pale. They look like so-called white people. All right, but they believe in this truth. And you have some Gadites that are dark that believe in this truth, and I've met a couple of them. You know, not personally, but I know a couple of them. You have some Issacharites that are extremely pale skinned. All right, that believe in this truth. You know, you have some people from Judah that are light skinned, and they believe in this truth, man. You know, so it's mostly according to the Spirit. And we know that not all Mexicans are going to be saved. We know that not all Native Americans are going to be saved. All right. But we have that there for an attention grabber. All right. We don't focus on endless genealogies, man. If somebody comes into this truth, we don't go up to them and say, show me a facts about your parents, 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 your father's, father's, father's lineage. You know, which actually is what they did back then. You know, back then they used to do that, man. You know, you read the book of Esdras, I believe it was. And if you couldn't show that you were, all right, of the lineage of Israel, then you couldn't proclaim yourself to be an Israelite. That's just what it was. You see? So that's why the Lord came. The Lord didn't come here, so everybody can just be, spiritual Judites and spiritual Levites, even if they're not from the lineage of Israel. That's not why the Lord came. All right. The Lord came for the spiritual Judites and spiritual Levites, all right, that are from the lineage of Israel, that are spiritual people, you see, that serve Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. And if you call yourself of another nation and you serve Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, then guess what? You're an Israelite. All right. You have the spirit of an Israelite. And that's what that really stands for, man. That's what that really means. You have Vocab Malone and these people that want to make up these things, all right, in order to fit their um, what is it called? Their agenda. You know, they wanted to fit what they want, but whenever it comes to other scriptures, they completely just leave it out of the question. Yeah, we're not even going to mention that. You know, because they don't understand it. But that little bit that they think they understand, they don't even understand that. And they want to come up to camps and they want to come up to brothers and they want to try and confuse them and they want to try and do these things because, all right, they don't know this, but because in the spirit they're against the truth. All right, so let me read that again. Romans 2:29. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of the Most High. You see? So back then, you had to show a physical proof that you were an Israelite. You know? That's how back then they used to have it. And that's why it was brought up, because the Israelites knew this. All right? Paul, Peter, Timothy, all right? These were men that understood the scriptures and studied the scriptures. These weren't unlearned men that just up in the air, they just, out of nowhere, they just knew shit. You know? This was a scriptural knowledge, man, because back then that's what they had to do. You had to present endless genealogies to prove that you were an Israelite in order to be of the fold. And now, since Yahweh came, it's not according to a physical letter, all right, but it's according to the letter of the Spirit. You see? And that circumcision is that of the heart, which means you cut away the mind, all right, the heart meaning the mind, the brain, all right, you cut away, all right, your physical attachments to this physical life. You see? And you put on a new man, being of the spirit, being born again. You understand? It says in the spirit and not of the letter, whose praise is not of men, all right, but of the Most High. You see? So that's what that represents. First Timothy chapter 1 and 4. So here we have First Corinthians. Let me get that. First Corinthians 2 and 15. It says, but he that is spiritual judgeth all things, yet he himself is judged of no man. For who hath known the mind of the Lord, that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of Mashiach. All right. So since we have the mind of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, which is these scriptures, which is given to us by the Spirit, that's why we understand these things. And some things are stumbling blocks unto other people. You know, like Elder Tahar had just brought this out, the supposed rape doctrine. All right, which is not a doctrine that we teach. We don't teach to go out there and do that. We teach that back then that's what they used to do. Simple. But even something small like that, people bug out. People get all crazy about. They can't understand it. They don't accept it, even though it's in the scriptures. You know, if and Elul Tahar had brought out this example too. Back then, all right, if your child, all right, he was 20 some years old, or he was living with you, and he was nothing but a lazy, piece of dung, all right, you had to put him to death. You had to put your son to death if he was lazy back then. Do we do that now? No, we don't. But that's also part of the scriptures. That's all we teach, man. You know, we teach to be more spiritual and less carnal. You see? And this applies to Israel, the children of Israel. You know, so if you accept this truth and you want this truth and you want to increase in knowledge, understanding, then guess what? You're an Israelite. That's simple. You know, it's something simple. That's our DNA test. We don't have to go to some, some hospital and some place, some clinic to get our blood withdrawn and to see what type of blood type we have and what it dates back to. That's endless genealogies. That's what that goes back to. We don't do that. It's according to the Spirit, you know? And not just that, but also trying the spirits, man. That's also part of it, you know? So that, let me go to First John 4 and verse 1. It says, beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits. Why? Because you had Israelites back then that would come in as agents, trying to search out the freedom that those Israelites had. You know? So, beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of the Most High. Wait a minute. Are not all spirits from the Most High? You see? But it's talking about the elect, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. All right, many false prophets are gone out into the world. Let's look up that word prophets, because you do have a lot of false prophets out there, man. False prophets, pseudo prophetes, which means one who, acting the part of a divinely inspired prophet, utters falsehoods under the name of divine prophecies. All right. Now, what's a falsehood? A falsehood is peace, love, and prosperity. All right, and no damage to the world. Everything is good. That's a false prophecy. All right. What's another false prophecy? The RFID chip is not the mark of the beast. That's a false prophecy because the RFID chip is the mark of the beast. You see? So you have to take heed to doctrine as well, if they're speaking the rightful things or not. You see? And if you don't know, then for that time being, stay quiet. That's what Proverbs says. The book of Proverbs tells you if you don't know, a wise man stays quiet, man. You know? Even a fool is counted as wise when he shutteth his mouth. You see? So prophecy, it says pseudo Salakia. Pseudo means false. All right, pseudoscience is false knowledge. All right, so pseudo prophetess is a false prophet. You see, So it says, one who, acting the part of a divinely inspired prophet, utters falsehood under the name of divine prophecies, a false prophet. All right. And whenever we go out, we say that we have 100% truth, man, because we go into the scriptures and we verify it through scriptures. And we know that the word of the Most High is true. Now, First Timothy's 1 and 4 is true, but not in the sense that they're trying to use it. All right. About the endless genealogies and the 12 tribe chart. You know, it's not true how they're trying to use it, but, all right, but the scripture is true. So this is going back to First Timothy 1 and 4. Neither give heed to fables and endless genealogies, which minister questions, rather than godly edifying, which is in faith. All right. And those questions doesn't mean you come up and start asking a question. Hey, well, if I'm an Issacharite, how do you know I'm an Issacharite? And then you go to the breakdown of how an Issacharite represents Issachar, and how a Judite represents a so-called Negro. All right. So you go into the breakdown, and that brings forth edification. All right. But even that, people still can't get that. And there's a lot of, from what I've seen, there's a lot of proof that the Judites are the so-called Negroes and that the Issacharites are the so-called Mexicans. There's a lot of proof, a lot. But even at that, even the Gadites being the Native Americans, some are a little bit more loosed upon faith, hanged upon faith, but the other ones are perfectly clear. And even at that, people still can't get it, man. That's why when Vocab Malone brings out the 12 tribe chart, he doesn't go to the strong ones like Judah and Issachar and Gad. No, he goes to the weaker ones, all right, that are more loosely based upon faith, like Jamaicans. Did you know Jamaicans are Benjamites according to reggae? That's what GMS says, which is not true, man. We're just bringing out the facts, you know. The so-called Jamaicans, all right, they were singing about freedom. They were singing about leaving Babylon. They were singing about the Israelites, and they called themselves the Israelites. They were howling like wolves, man, but that's too spiritual for some people to understand. So it says, which minister questions rather than godly edifying. Now, the 12th tribe chart is a godly edification, so that doesn't even come into this question, which is in faith, because some of those things are more based upon faith, like I mentioned. Now, the end of the commandment is charity out of pure heart. And people like to quote certain scriptures when it comes to end of commandment, end of law, but they don't go into the word, because that word end does not mean, the finalization. You don't have to do it anymore. All right? Because that word end means a goal. All right? Primary tello, to set out for a definite point or a goal. All right? So in other words, the goal, not just the end. All right? The goal of the commandment is charity out of pure heart. You see? And that's how the Israelites are supposed to act towards each other. That's the whole goal. And of a good conscience and of faith unfeigned. That's the goal, man. That's the goal. Jeremiah 31 and 31. That's the goal, man. From which some, having swerved, have turned aside unto vain jangling. All right. Desiring to be teachers of the law, which is what that man brought out. All right. He said that we desire to be teachers of the law. And my question to him was, who are the teachers of the law? All right. But he wasn't understanding what I was saying. He was saying, well, you don't even understand what that verse says. It says desiring to be teachers of the law. So I asked him again, who are the teachers of the law? If we're the ones that are desiring to be teachers of the law, then who are the teachers of the law? Who are the teachers of the scriptures? Understanding neither what they say nor whether they affirm. And he was like, you see, you don't even understand what you're saying. And he said what he had to say, and I cut it off, and he took off. That was it. He was saying, I'm just looking out for you. If he was looking out for me, he would take his time to try and convince me, enchant me with his doctrine. But that wasn't it. He just wanted to hear himself speak. All right. And there was another gentleman that was there, and he heard everything, you know. And then I went into different scriptures talking about those genealogies, because it's not talking about just genealogies, it's talking about endless genealogies, you know. You're not going to give your time to edify the body. You're not going to give your time to edify yourself, because all you're going to be doing is just research about yourself. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And you're not bringing forth edification, man. You're just putting yourself in a little box, in a trap. If you believe in this truth, then you're an Israelite. All right. And according to the Genesis 49, you know, that's who the Israelites would be. That's where the landmarks of those Israelites are. Deuteronomy 28 also explains who the Israelites are, you know. And even simple things like that is too deep for certain people, man, because they're babes, you know. When you go into a pool, which this word is likened unto water, if you go into a pool of water, all right, and you go to the 2 feet, a 6 foot 5, 6 foot 5, Salakia, myself, that is a 6 foot, all right, 6 foot 5'11", and so, you know, about 6 foot. Somebody like myself, a 2 foot deep water, that ain't nothing, you know, that's about my knees. But somebody that is a babe that doesn't understand the scriptures, not saying that I'm 6 foot in this word, all right, just giving an example. But somebody that's a babe that goes into this water that's 2 foot, guess what? He's gonna drown. And that's why some of the simplest things are so confused and so deep for certain people, man. You know, because they just don't quite get it. All right, but I'm gonna end it right here. So let me read that again. 1 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 7. Desiring to be teachers of the law, understanding neither what they say, nor whereof they affirm. All right. Those that are desirous to teach the law, all right, that don't understand a single thing, are babes. You see? And I myself am a babe too, but you know, I have a little bit more understanding due to my elders, to the apostles, you know, my teachers, my brothers that are teaching me this truth, you know, because you had Israelites that would try to force the Gentile Israelites into keeping the law, statutes, and commandments to the perfection. And that's why Paul would say, you guys can't even keep it to the perfection. So why are you bidding, all right, these newcomers to keep it to the perfection? You know, desiring themselves to be teachers of the law when they don't even understand what they're doing. You see? So I hope that was edifying. You know, like I said, this will probably be chopped up into different parts. But I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, the name of the Father, Yahweh Shai, the name of his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, Bahasham Rakakwadash, in the name of the Holy Spirit, Shalom, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Shalom.